Hello everyone and welcome to Arctic Retro, the retro computer channel from above the Arctic Circle. In this video I'm revisiting my Commodore 64 that I actually built myself based on the KU motherboard from BWAC last year. But before I start, I actually want to mention what you might have already noticed, that I got a sponsor, and the sponsor is PCBWay, the manufacturer of PCBs. And yeah, I'm really happy about that because it makes it possible to make better videos, purchase more equipment and maybe more machines to play around with. So I hope that's okay with you too. This is the KU motherboard, KU14194HB replica by BWAC 2019, and as you can see, this is a very nice PCB. I got this motherboard actually completely without any components, and I made a couple of videos some months ago where I soldered in all the components with just new components, except for a few of the old original MOS chips. So if you want to see that series of videos, you can just take a look in the description of this video, and I'll link them in there. The PCB for this motherboard was actually produced by PCBWay, my sponsor, and if you are doing some hobby projects yourself and you need some PCBs, then just head over to PCBWay.com and you can get an instant quote there, and you can actually upload the Gerber files you need for the PCB, including this one that's actually available on GitHub. They also provide services for CNC machining and 3D printing, and they even have a shared projects page where you can search for already made PCBs for hobby projects like the Commodore 64, and you can just buy them right away. Anyway, there's a few things I want to do with this machine, and one of the things is to fix this ugly heatsink problem here. This is not the original heatsink. In fact, it is perhaps too small, because this 7805 voltage regulators that this heatsink sits on gets very hot, and the heatsink now, after a few minutes, it's so hot that I can't touch it for more than a fraction of a second, so I don't think that's a good thing. Also, it sits on top of this capacitor that might get too hot, so I want to replace this with something else. And also, the picture quality of this machine is okay, but I want to see if I can actually improve it a bit more. As you can see on the screen now, it's fairly okay, but I want to replace the RF modulator replacement that I currently have with another RF modulator replacement. And I got this Shuriken RF modulator replacement. I thought I'll test that and see if it gives any better result. Alright, let's get started, and I'll start by removing the voltage regulator, and I'm gonna replace it in fact with a much cooler variant. In fact, I'm gonna replace it with this one. This is a Murata 1.5 amps 5 volt switching voltage regulator, and this is like a DC to DC converter, and this runs much cooler because it's much more efficient, and actually it's in fact a small little circuit board here. And yeah, let's go ahead and start taking out the motherboard from the case. Heating up the desoldering gun. While this original 7805 voltage regulator is very cheap, maybe just pennies, The new one actually costs from 4 to 6 euros, and I think that's worth it to replace it with a switching regulator to keep it cooler, and thus this machine might last longer, hopefully. Alright, let's desolder this old voltage regulator. Alright, I think it's loose. The new regulator should go in like this, and this is pin 1 when you have it this way with the pins down, and that's pin 1 on the PCB. And it's a bit tight, I can't get it down, so I actually have to bend the pins. A little bit like that. Maybe a little bit more. But it's a small component, so it won't be in the way of anything, I think. So now it just stands up a little bit like this. Alright, then it's time to solder it in. The remaining legs are a little bit tall, so I'm gonna cut them, prevent them from flying out in the room. That looks good, so time to test. Let's see now if it still works. Yep. As expected. Now I'm gonna leave it on for a while and check if this actually gets hot, or something else might happen after a while. Because if you have original voltage regulator 7805 and you don't have a heatsink on it, on this machine, then it will get too hot and eventually it will break down and fail. You can also replace the 12 volt regulator with a similar DC to DC switching regulator, but there's actually no point in doing that because this does not get that warm. So as you can see, I can hold my finger on it, no problem. Besides the replacement of the RF modulator, I actually got a couple of other good replacements. This is the PLA Plankton or Plankton PLA chip replacement that's based on a modern solution, and this is actually a SID chip replacement called Swin SID. That's also quite handy, and they are good enough for almost any purpose. And yeah, you can hear a difference on the sound, but it's not very much in my opinion. Alright, so it's been a while now, and touching this new regulator, actually, yeah, I can't feel heat at all. Nothing at all. By the way, I got this voltage regulator from Retroleum CO UK, and it was actually listed under accessories for the ZX Spectrum, and it can actually, of course, be used on other machines too that have 5 volt voltage regulator, and on the ZX Spectrum it also runs very hot, and it too have a large heatsink. Alright, I almost forgot, but I'm also gonna replace the ROM chips on this machine with new variants. I got both the basic kernel and the character ROM, and these are brand new EEPROMs. But first I'm gonna replace the RF modulator circuit with another one. And I'm gonna replace it with this much smaller one called the Shuriken. If I pronounce that correctly, Shuriken. It's like this Japanese star that you can throw. I'm not really sure where I got it from. I don't remember now, but I think you can get these many places where they sell Commodore 64 retro computer stuff. While these are RF modulator replacements, they actually don't produce an RF signal anymore, thus there is no RF out. But the RF modulator on the Commodore 64 also produces the composite signal as well, so that's why it's called a RF modulator replacement, but no RF signal. The signal goes from the VIC-2 chip through the RF modulator circuit and to the video output contact. Alright, let's desolder. It was quite hard to get this out because yeah, the pins are very thick, and I actually had to use some heat from air gun heat. Then in with a new one. Just gonna straighten it so it is level to the board. Alright, let's see now, does it still work, and does the picture improve any? Still works. So this is the before picture, and now you can see the after picture. Did the picture quality improve? Well, I don't think so. It's hard to tell. It's fairly good anyway, but one thing the other had was some adjustment pots, but this one doesn't have any possibilities to adjust. There's a bunch of other solutions I might try out later, but for now I'm gonna keep this one. I might try the Luma fix or anything like that later on, we'll see. Just gonna screw in the motherboard again, and then we're good to go to the next task, which is the ROM chips. ROM chips. Alright, I'm gonna replace the 3 ROM chips that are here, and actually these can be replaced with the modern 27 C256 or C512 EEPROMs, but you need an adapter then, and there are several solutions for that, but actually these comes with already an adapter on them with some jumpers that you can actually use to select which memory banks you are going to use, and thus you can have different versions of, for example, the kernel ROM on the same chip. And I actually got this from Martin Laupstad as a donation to my channel, so finally I can replace these old ROMs with new solutions, and even more of this computer is brand new components. And these have a very good fit into the sockets, so that's really nice. The original ones that actually came from old machines, they actually have shorter legs, and they were not very good down into the sockets. Alright, looking good, and the labeling on these chips are very nice looking. Just one little thing I want to do is to place a couple of heat sinks on this CIA chip, because it was missing. Keep it a little bit cooler perhaps. The only thing remaining now on this motherboard that is not a modern component is in fact the CIA chips and the VIC-2, and Yeah, I think there are some projects going on now that has aimed to make some modern solution, FPGA or something for those as well. So we'll see. All right, does it work with the new ROM chips? Let's see. Yep, just fine. Excellent. Just gonna run through the diagnostics cartridge and see that everything is okay without the harness. Of course, without the harness you will get some faults, but that's normal. Yeah, that sounds about right. And the bad tests are the normal ones when you don't have a testing harness on, but otherwise it works just fine. Before I finish this video, there's just one thing I want to test out, and that is actually how can I capture video from Commodore 64 or other machine to my Mac. And actually I have tried solutions before, like cheap video capture devices that could save to micro SD card, but that didn't really work. However, I recently got this one, which is another cheap HDMI video capture device that I actually purchased on eBay, quite cheap, from China of course, and I haven't had the time to test it before, so I'll do it now. To test it, I'm gonna use my MacBook Air, and I already downloaded the OBS Studio, Open Broadcast Studio software, and I have it running already. Actually, I can, okay, it comes up with the camera. Hello. So I'm gonna remove that video source. This is not gonna be tutorial in using OBS. You can also capture the screen, so I'm gonna do that now. Window capture. Okay, so now it is capturing the OBS window, and now I'm gonna plug in the HDMI video capture dongle. So now let's see if we can add the video capture device. It should show up here under video capture device. Add a new one, and then select the device. Oh, there's a USB camera device. That must be it. Alright, so now we have some color bars. I'll start recording again, and now I'm gonna insert the HDMI from the Commodore, or actually the video upscaler device that I'm using. Hey, there's Moon Patrol. Cool, so that actually works. Now I'm dragging the picture to cover the whole area, like that. Now let me boot into Basic, see how it looks. Yeah, at least there's a picture, and the quality I don't really know until I see it onto the video, but some artifacts, a little too much pink colors on the border. But of course you don't get a better picture than the source is, so I think this is what you can expect. The MacBook is working as crazy. The fan is spinning at full speed, so this is probably some heavy duty task to capture this video and to convert it on the fly. So maybe I can change some settings. I am converting into full HD 1080p, and yeah, maybe that's not the best resolution for capturing from the Commodore 64. I have to fiddle a little bit around with that, but it should capture the sound also, so oops, I didn't show it, but here is the HD video converter that takes composite S-video signal into a SCART connector that goes into this upscaler, and this one outputs HDMI. Very good, this device actually works, and pretty good also, so I'm pretty pleased with that. Now I have the possibility to capture video from these old machines. Just a little game before I conclude. Okay, that was it for this video. There's a couple of more things I want to do with this computer. For example, the keyboard. I am looking for a newer keyboard, and another solution for the keyboard would be great. Also, maybe a new case, because this was a Commodore 64C case that I just painted myself. Although it's good looking, I want something more original maybe. Anyway, that was it for this video, and as always, thanks to my patrons on patreon.com, and for everyone else that subscribes and likes my videos. I really appreciate it. So see you, bye bye.